And welcome back to Live, Laugh, Stuck, and we are back with Moosestuck. Hello, Moosey.
Hello, Moosey.
Yeah, so I was very excited about these pages. I'm really been excited about the past couple of things. We are like really ramping up towards the end, which like isn't technically a spoiler because you can see how many pages are left. Actually, I forget what page Homestuck ends on.
I mean, I could look it up real fast.
Yeah, because go look it up because we did
8130. And we're in the 7,000s, right?
Yeah, we just read 7176 to 7408. So we have less than 1,000 pages left.
Yeah, which is like no time
Yeah.
compared to like reading lots of some of the previous acts of Homestuck.
Yeah. I it's not like there won't have the potential of a whole bunch of text coming up,
Yeah.
But
I mean, they did just retcon a bunch of things.
They did just retcon a bunch of things. Let's get into it. Let's go through all of John's instructions. I just have it. Maybe if I organize this better, I could have it all of John's instructions and then everything. But I'm just going to go through it as we read it chronologically and also try to reference your notes. But feel free to pop in, interrupt me at all times. So,
hey.
Yeah.
Stop.
We're continuing.
No. Okay, I'll stop.
We're continuing with Act 6, Intermission 4, with John and Terezi, where John is reading all of Terezi's instructions. I really like this line from Terezi, like maybe not like in general, but like in the context of Homestuck and like her arc in particular. We make our own luck, and you're about to prove that. And I don't know. I feel like we're getting towards stuff that is just like I can't finish talking about until the end. I mean, not that there hasn't been stuff I was like, well, I can't talk about that now, but we're just really, really getting close to it,
Yeah.
I love that Terezi asks what John's favorite color is before like using that color to then draw her own corpse outline and throwing him the chalk to use for the to use for some of the stuff he's going to need to do, and then just falling exactly in her outline. It's king shit. Though I just love John. God, you are so fucking weird. Just saying to this dead person in front of you.
Yeah.
But we switch to Jane, who joins up with Calliope and Jade, and it's just very funny. It's like, oh, Callie, that's you. Who are you though?
Yeah.
And everyone gets a troll sona, which is very cute.
Like kind of fangirl over having troll sonas.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a huge part of being a Homestuck fan is having your troll soda. Have you made a troll soda for yourself? Have you put thought into that?
No, I've only really like drawn myself in the kid style.
Yeah.
I don't know what parameters I need. I know that we did like the Classpect quiz thing. I don't know what what is the complexity of creating one's troll soda.
I mean, it's as simple or complex as you want. Like the bare bones basics are what blood color are you? What do your horns look like, and what is your name, since the first and last name have to be 6 digits, 6 letters.
Okay. Yeah.
Like people go farther than that. Like they decide what their I mean, this goes for kids too, and kind of just gets into more general SBURB stuff, like what their capture log system is, and then the class spec stuff.
Tree.
Yeah. I think I had mine set as a because I made troll sodas off and on. I just never really stick to them, but like one of them was like it was a planner where kind of like Kanaya's unlocked whenever she needed something the most. I had mine where it was a planner, so I had to say I'm going to need this at this time to try to be on that sort of thing. But and then like blood color, people go with their actual like astrological sign, or they go off of the vibes of the blood colors to say what they'd be?
Well, I did sit outside filming squirrels for 2 hours this earlier today, so I think, was it rust color?
Oh, it was bronze. Is
Bronze.
the animals one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they get called rusties, like both burgundy and bronze. I really only ever heard it referred to burgundy, but I feel like there was a time or two in Friend Sim that it got used for bronze as well. It's just like that, those bottom two. I go between, like, I feel like teal is the stereotypical one for that I would be drawn towards, but I think I ended up deciding on gold. But mine is purple. Mine's clown. I'm clown sign. But no thank you. No offense, juggalos, but no thank you.
Yeah, and I'm an Aries, but
yeah, I mean, there's just a little smidge over the line. There's not much.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing that John has to go to is a reunion, and we were mentioning off the recording that you had an issue with the passwords because you have the troll quirk turned off, so you weren't seeing it in Terezi's quirk and had to go look it up.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like in the image, but at first I was just confused because there was that previous password, so I thought it was like there was one password.
Oh, no, yeah.
Then every time there's a new password, I'm like, okay, wait, I need to like look at the image. Yeah. I looked up Homestuck passwords first, and then I like figured out what the thing was based on the context. I was like, oh, okay, it's the word.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I wasn't explicitly told it was the word.
Yeah, I don't think they like necessarily spelled it out, but it was kind of like John had to focus on home in order to get back to Terezi, and so these are just different words for him to focus on to go to the places Terezi is thinking about whenever she was writing that. So that's what that's about, and that's why it's in her quirk.
Reunion.
Yeah, so reunion is a simple one. He gets the ring, and that's pretty much it. I do love that he got to have like a little, like, you know, like it says reunion, because he meets his friends like right after they all teleport with him whenever John was just standing around bored, and suddenly all his friends were there. So he got to see a very dazed group of people and go like, Carcat, you're my favorite, and hug Dave and everything. And just telling Rose, I'm going to make sure I never have to watch you die again. Mm-hmm. Which is like, imagine just someone appearing out of like, or not, you appear out of nowhere and your friend is like, hey, I'm tired of watching you specifically die. Like, damn. Yeah. I did like he called Arania, what's her name, Circuit. Mm-hmm. And like specifically calls her irrelevant, which is just like the death knell for any circuit is to not only what's her name, but also to be considered irrelevant. Like, damn.
Yeah.
Speaking of circuits, we then go with Vriska and Mina, and they're being cute and watching Lord English blow up various dream bubbles, but to them it kind of looks like fireworks, and it's neat. And this is one of those things that I'm gonna quote Vriska here. I'm gonna read some Vriska lines and just like I'm just gonna keep it in mind for later. So, you know, Vriska's talking about Lord English's path of destruction. Mm-hmm. Still, I can't imagine he's led a very enjoyable existence. I mean, sure, maybe he thinks he has, in the way that totally delusional, egomaniacal people tend to. But I bet he never had anyone in his life who was actually important to him. Someone who could have helped him see that nothing is worth that kind of obsession. That it's better to just try and be happy. Like, damn, Vriska.
Yeah.
And then they hold hands, and it's cute. I don't know. They're cute. I love them.
Death date thing.
Yeah, a death date, you know? I mean, they're all dead, and, you know, because Mina's kind of like, it's hard to care about them as much because they are all dead already. Like, it's just harder for them to, like, for her to feel, like, any, like, real sense of loss, because there's just, like, an innumerable number of iterations of dead people. Which, you know, is kind of the reasoning that Vriska and Arania were, mind controlling everyone in the first place. It's a interesting thing. Yeah, because I mean, the dream bubbles weren't even a thing until Feferi talked to the oh my god, what do they call the eldritch horrors in this game? What the outer gods or whatever to create the dream bubbles in the first place. So I don't know. I wonder what the other afterlife is like. Another dead Feferi made another set of dream bubbles, and it's just dream bubble inception.
Yeah.
I do love John. Like, okay, bloody scarf. Where to next? Which is framed. Okay, there was a 4 in here. I wasn't sure there was a 4A.
Oh, I think that the hussy shows up later because I was gonna ask about that.
Yeah, hussy shows up later. I think I have that in my notes. To mention. Yeah, I got jump scared with this framed because it went back far enough that we had a hussy commentary on it. So I'm like, oh shit, he's talking. Hussy's talking. And yeah, John steals the witness, the stuffed dragon, the pyro spray. I don't know. I forget what they were called. Stuffed dragon, you know? You got it. Stole a dragon plush.
Yeah. Also, I didn't make a note on this, but I don't know if this will become clear later on, but I also didn't pay attention to what order we were going back in time. Like, was it randomly all over the place, or was it like sequential, most recent first?
So the ring thing was the recent. The most recent thing that happened, and then after that it does go chronologically. So framed is from from oldest to newest. So framed is because I was
gonna say that feels like really old.
Yeah, this is Act 5, Act 2 is when this goes back to. So this is when it's called I think it's just called Moosestuck. I'm forgetting all these classic Homestuck things I should know. But yeah, when Gamzee's murdering everyone and frames it on Vriska and Terezi.
That seemed like the biggest inflection point, I guess.
Yeah. It's just all the stuff leading up to that. Yes. So yeah, this is setting things back on track, mostly with Terezi realizing that it's Gamzee and not Vriska doing a lot of it. I mean, it's not that Vriska killed no one. Like, Vriska did kill Tavros. That was a thing. I mean, like, what's the body count? Is Vriska killed Tavros, Aridin killed Kanaya, Feferi, and half killed Solux, and then Kanaya got better and killed Aridin, and then Gamzee killed Equius and Nepeta. So, I mean, Gamzee didn't do that much if you average it out. Like, I mean, you know, it wasn't that many more murders than anyone else. I mean, it depends on how you count Aridin's, right? Like, one he only half killed, and one of them got better. So, and then we go to a moment where Terezi has John write, "You don't need him," on the wall. And this is the line that, you know, I love to give you peeks into Homestuck fandom discourse. That's the entire reason I make them. And like, this has caused so much Homestuck discourse in the fact that who is Terezi talking about when she is telling her past self, you don't need him. And they're like, because this is right after the conversation with Carcat, so it is easy to infer that maybe it's Carcat. There's John who's like, maybe it's Carcat or Dave, and also like, yeah, I mean, don't get with Dave. And so it could be that, because they were also like flirting at this point.
Who was the one that drank a lot of Faygo?
Yeah. So
I know it was Gamzee, but who was like?
Oh, that was Terezi.
Really okay.
Yeah. So that's why I think it's like probably Gamzee, right?
That seems like the one that caused the most damage for her.
Right. Yeah, and like by this point, they were already like that. That was one thing I did glance over some of the Hussy notes, the Hussy commentary, and like Hussy like says that this is the beginning of like the real flirtation the real pitch flirtation between Gamzee and Terezi, that they were already focused on each other by this point. And like, yeah, Karkat and Dave kind of caused confusion for Terezi, probably Karkat more than Dave, but like the Terezi Dave thing mostly just happens off screen, and it barely gets commented on. And the Karkat Terezi thing is more of an issue for Karkat than Terezi from what we've seen. But then there are the people who insist that it means all men, and Terezi is actually a lesbian, and it's just like, I don't mind people's headcanons, but it gets very frustrating when every like woman in Homestuck who has like expressed interest in both men and women is just like, actually they're a lesbian now.
Same with like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, like, oh
no, my God, I will never get over that. Like, that's just because freaking Joss Whedon didn't know what a bisexual was. Like, I'm a big what was his name? Oz, the werewolf?
Yeah.
I love Willow and Oz together. So it just gets frustrating when people try to say, actually, that relationship didn't matter. There was nothing there. And I'm like, okay.
I will say, if I did go back in time and wrote, "You don't need him," to my past self, I probably would have meant everyone I dated in my late teens to early 20s. Just don't be dating during that time.
God,
you don't need any of those.
It is hard though, because like, how, I think about going back in time and fixing, going through things in a different way with my current knowledge, but then it's just like, okay, how much of what I did was essential to have the knowledge for who I am today? Like, how many dumb little fuck ups did I go through that were essential to like give me the knowledge that I would then go back in time and fix? And then it turns into a time paradox, depending on which time travel theory you're going off of.
Yeah. I mean, I've had relationships with people, or even like jobs that were bad, that like taught me about a new thing. Like, oh, here's a great text editor you can use.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, maybe the trauma was worth getting this really cool text editor.
Yeah, but also it is worth keeping in mind that Terezi is like, all the kids are 13 at the point in time that John goes back to say this. So I think going back in time to tell any 13-year-old that they do not need a relationship is just a good idea. Like, I think that's just solid all around. Like, no offense to 13-year-olds. Like, I'm not trying to say your relationships are unimportant. Like, I mean, I was 13. 13 is a terrible time to be. Of all the times I could go back and relive, 13 would be like one of the last ones I would do. But yeah, I mean, again, it goes back to like, we all make like dumb mistakes when we're teens. I don't know, it gets hard because I don't want to like talk down. It's like, you're young and you don't understand relationships yet. Yeah. Like, your relationships are real, they're happening to you. But I mean, also,
I'm just like, look, no one's like stable. You don't need to be dating unstable people. Yourself also included in that.
Yeah.
Everyone's all over the place.
Absolutely. Like, God, I was not a good person to date back then either. And no one I dated was a good person to date. Like, there were one or two that were fine. But no, it's just like, yeah. So I do not blame anyone for telling their 13-year-old self that you don't need romantic partner X, Y, and Z. Yeah. But
and the irony of life is that's like exactly what it's the most like, I love this person so much.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. I think I really peaked at like 15 with that, but yeah, it's a rough time period. It's just like, you got all the new hormones, you got all this emotion, you have everyone talking down to you. But yeah, no. So I don't know. This line is like, it can be like so cool, and then it also just gets so frustrating because I'm in fandom discourse and there's biphobia throughout. I mean, everywhere. Like, biphobia is common everywhere, but there's biphobia in like queer communities, and there's biphobia in fandoms, and there's definitely a lot of biphobia in Homestuck fandoms.
Aww.
So
I don't get it.
Yeah. And I do love that, just another reminder that John likes to prank people, and I feel like a lot of people, when they try to write John forget about that part of him, that he is kind of a dick to people, like in a fun way. And whenever I write older versions of him, I always lean into him being like a little bit of a dick.
Yeah.
And so Harry Anderson as the Doctor from Doctor Who. Have you watched it? Because like Harry Anderson, I already forget because he's mentioned at the very fucking beginning of Homestuck, because he's some like early 1900s or mid 1900s like comedy guy, right?
I do not recognize this man at all.
Are you looking him up?
Yeah. I do not know this man.
Like part of the joke, I think, is that John is just really into some like old ass like 1920s, 1930s, whatever, like comedy guys for no reason. Like he has a 13-year-old in 2009. He should not be interested in that.
I want to hear comedy from like 1930. Like, so about those bootleggers.
Yeah, right. Let me look him up too. Yeah, he was an actor, comedian, and magician, which, you know, another thing is that John's really into magic tricks, but that does get dropped off real quick. But his pranks doesn't really. Yeah, just I already forgot the fucking year he was in. Oh, okay. I had him way older than he was. He actually was still alive when Homestuck was coming out. He died in 2018. I swear there was like some older comedian in there, but I could be thinking of, oh my God, I'm going to have you read fucking the Skynet lore drop. Oh my God. I could be remembering Skynet lore drop stuff when I'm thinking about that. I mean, technically you could probably read it now because it's not, by this point, it's not spoilers for anything, even because I can't remember if I've explained this on like the podcast to you specifically before. I actually did an episode because my podcast was coming out whenever it came out. But on January 1st, 2019, there was Skynet.online or some Skynet website that dropped, and people thought it was an ARG because there was a map with a bunch of different like locations pointed out, kind of like do you remember when Rose and or Roxy were in laboratories? And I mean, I guess there were a lot of screens where they zoomed in on different like points on a computer screen. So it was like that. And so people actually tried going to those places, and the team had to come out and say, no, that was just like, there's nothing there. That was just a little fun thing. Please don't go there. To all these different places.
To Toblerones?
That comes later, but
okay.
I think it had to be inspired by this. The fact that like Hussey saw that people were willing to go out to bullshit ass places to try to find shit that he never even said was out there. I have to think inspired the Toblerone thing that happened. But the Toblerone thing happened in August of that year, August 2019. And this dropped on January 1st. And then another thing is there were files hidden in the webpage. I don't know enough about how you find those files, but the entire Homestuck community does, right? Like, so they found those files in like 5 seconds of the website going live. Like, it's not there were links to it or anything. They just found the files on the website. And these contained lore that Hussey wrote. I forget if it was around this time that we're currently reading or even earlier than that. That is the entire like kind of history from the Condes's point of view of going through both the Beta Kids and the Alpha Kids timelines, and it is cursed as shit. It is anti-Semitic. I mean, Hitler's in there. It gets the
Was she observing that Hitler existed on Earth? I don't want to know. I don't want to know, really.
We'll read it at some point. Like if only for a little fun thing, but it's just like, because it's just a bunch of stuff. Like we find out that Jake is related to Obama. Fieri, like Guy Fieri is named Guy Fieri because the Condes was like, what was my heiress's name? Fieri. Oh, and you're a guy, so like Guy Fieri. But there was a lot of backlash when it came out. And apparently people were like, hey, so like Hussey asked us how it was and we told him it was shit, but he thought that it was the joking that, you know, because sometimes we joke with each other that the writing was shit. And they didn't understand that we meant like, no, for real, do not publish this shit. Because like they hadn't like really looked at it since they wrote it back in 2012 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So sorry about that.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, it was just like, you know, 2012 era Hussey writing lore that deals with stuff, you know? Like, I don't want to say it's all bad. It all has, like, I think it has some interesting stuff in there. It does make it clear how much he fucking hates Jake. Like, like I don't know. If anyone, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like Hussey will try to claim that they don't dislike any of their characters, but they actively dislike Jake and Tavros, and I would also add Aridin and Gamzee onto that as well. But it is the most obvious with Jake IMO.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so that's a Harry Anderson. I'm pretty sure is also in that, or there's some other. Anyway, that was the point I was coming back to. Is like there's some 1920s comedy guys that end up getting into the Prospect Kids family tree because their family tree is nonsense. It's terrible. It's a whole map. It's wild.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that was a long side tangent about that. Anyway, so we go back to Callie, Jade, and Jane, and just more detail. It's Jane's time for storytelling, and I really love how good of a storyteller Jane is. Like she's really into it, and she's like even the other two mentioned that she's doing a really good job with it, which I love. And you mentioned you like the art. And so it's like Shelby Craig is the person who did all the art for Calliope. Mm-hmm. And she also did some other art besides that, like some albums and some other things. And I think even in like Hive Swap did some art. I just looked at it and I already forgot. I swear to Christ, Shelby Craig did other stuff besides this. And I tried looking it up. Like, you know, not Homestuck stuff, but like professional stuff. And like I swear like she did stuff on Steven Universe, but I couldn't find her credits anywhere for it. So
the art looks a lot like some of the art that comes out of Double Fine, the game studio. But I'm pretty sure that's like a whole other person.
Yeah, I couldn't find anything. I sent you the post on it where she had actually very recently been asked about like, hey, I hear you don't talk about, I don't see you talk about Homestuck that much. Do you like not want anyone to bring it up or what? And just like the response that had this vague left because of creative differences and finding out what I won't put up with is just like, oh man, there is some dirt there. And I'm nosy. That might be something that like OG Homestuck fans will know. I mean, like I'm an OG Homestuck fan. I just wasn't like into it at the time. So that's something that other people might actually know about. And I don't want to like relitigate shit from a decade ago, but I don't know. I just thought that was interesting that I was trying to figure out her shit. And just like one of her latest posts was about Homestuck and how she basically only deals with it because she takes commissions because money's good. Yeah, you didn't have many comments on this, but Jade disappeared. The kids stage a prison break to break out Roxy and Jake, and this is the timeline that Jane is explaining. Just not the timeline that we are familiar with. But then, because like this stuff didn't happen in what we saw, right?
At this point, I'm like, I don't remember anything well enough.
Yeah, so
I'm like confused.
We already got a hint of this whenever Jade was talking about how she was alone on the ship for 3 years because John and Dave Sprite went and got exploded. Like their planet exploded when they were hanging out on one of the planets. And so this is a continuation of that, of like, oh, someone died, but it was Roxy pushing Rose out of the way. So now Roxy's dead. And they were to overcome with like their grief that Jane wasn't properly able to explain, like, hey, I can like revive her. This is like the only thing I can do. And then we switch over to Roxy, which I think was there's some good transitions in here, and having a funeral for Rose, and then she gets to hug Jasper Sprite, which is very cute. I don't know. I just like imagine like finding out that the cat you accidentally killed is now a pink tentacle princess that you get to hug.
Yeah.
And the next John password, or the Terezi password that John goes to, is murder, which is just like freaking. It specifically stops Terezi from trying to revive Tavros, which wasn't going to work anyway. But it is just like damn, Tavros doesn't even get like the attempt at a terrible wake up kiss. It's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, John just thinks Terezi is pranking him rather than like doing anything, because this is where he drops off the dragon plush.
Oh, he dropped it off here?
Yes, that's what distracted her away from...
I thought she just, like, heard him or something. I, like, totally missed that.
Yeah, that's fair. It was a quick thing. But yeah, that's what distracts her away from trying to give Tavros the kiss of life ineffectually. And yes.
Mm-hmm.
Justice. So there's some hussy commentary from the initial page. Terezi is back at the goddamn GoDad container. She is clearly unwittingly obsessed with Gamzee. And yeah, that's what I was referencing before of like, you don't need him, to me, could very clearly be referencing Gamzee, even though we don't see them get into a relationship until Openbound. If you manage to do things in a certain way, you get the hint that they're already together at that point. I forgot about the Vriska self-ship edit of, I don't even know what movie this was, but it was like Nick Cage and someone, and Vriska drew her glasses and lipstick on the person to be self-shipped with Nick Cage.
I don't even know what movie that is.
Yeah, I have no idea. I am not fluent in Nick Cage movies.
Nick Cage and Meg Ryan in City of Angels.
Oh, there we go.
Also, like, have never seen that movie either.
Yeah, I have not. Anyway, it's so funny. Because that's where John writes the note, like, you fucking idiot, it's not Vriska doing this, it's obviously Gamzee. So.
Yeah.
Which leads us to Honk, which I got the screen cap of where John pops in and Gamzee just stops what he's doing to just stare at John. And it is the funniest fucking panel. I love it so much. And yeah, so John honks a horn so Terezi can be made aware that Gamzee is there fucking with her, because before she didn't know what was going on, didn't know it was Gamzee. And then she grabs Gamzee and heads on down for the final confrontation.
What's the final confrontation?
We'll get to it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's when like everyone is standing around in a circle doing bullshit, and it was like a reflection of the ancestors, and it's where like Kanai ends up coming back and killing Aridin and all that shit. All the shit that happens. And then we go back to Vriska and Mina, and they're cute, and they roll down a hill together, just giggling, and then they kiss, and I was so happy about it. Because they're cute. And this is where Hussy shows up. He's like hiding behind a boulder or something, being sad, and so I said cucked Hussy. Because the joke was that because it was the fandom joke that Vriska got away with so much because Hussy actually like was in love with Vriska. So, you know, earlier in the comic he put his self-insert in as trying to propose to Vriska, and so this is him being like, oh no, Vriska's with Mina now. And then Jane, Kelly, and Jade are doing more storytelling, and Jane's so guilty over accidentally killing Roxy, but there was some new leader who wasn't there last time. Who is the mysterious new leader? Did you have any idea at this point?
No, because I forgot about the different timelines, so I was like, who was in the battle? I don't remember anything weird.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, this is a whole separate timeline, which I guess like technically hasn't been confirmed yet. But yeah, shit's going differently, and we go see Flip, where John is instructed by Terezi to stop Terezi from killing Vriska and instead just knock Vriska out. And Yeah, the thing is with circuits is sometimes you just gotta punch them for their own good. Aurania gets punched at some point. I think this is the second person to punch Vriska. It's so good. Oh yeah, and you had the image of John just like patting fucking knocked out Vriska, and there's Karkat pointing and yelling and Gamzee tied up and just everyone just being. I loved this section so much. I missed a good Karkat rant, being confused and angry, and John just unwilling to explain anything except a few things in the most simple terms, and then just like not elaborating further. I genuinely love this section. and then he just fucks off while people are trying to ask him more questions.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know, it's so funny because like because Terezi wants to read the scarf and he says no, and then I think he offers to show Karkat the scarf and Karkat says no. I don't know, I love it. I'm a John Dave Cat shipper for life, so really I ship John with like basically everyone. Just it's hard to choose, you know, there's so many good ships. But he goes back to Roxy and gives her the ring that he got in the first one, and then they teleport them, and maybe it's just his planet away, since Jade in the new timeline still has all the other planets, but his was destroyed. So he teleports the entire planet to the new timeline, and then we have a little sound section that I think was just a bunch of clicking, where Jade finally remembers what happens. Vriska is back.
Yeah, as the leader of that group thing.
Yes. Yeah, Vriska was the leader that they didn't know, because Vriska and then Vriska put Jane and Jade to sleep. That's it. Oh yeah, the frickin' Solix shenanigans. You clipped that. Yeah. Solix is like, I know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, I grabbed that because the like images were broken on the bottom around shenanigans, so I was like, I don't know what this is.
I thought that they were fine on mine, but I'd have to go look. I don't know. It's still funny. I know exactly what's going on. Shenanigans. Yes. So yeah, and Vriska put him to sleep, and that's where we left off. It is the end of Act 6, Act 6, Intermission 4. So Act 6, Act 6, Act 5 is up next. There's so much. It's such a dumb Act 6, Act 6, Act 5.
Yeah.
Dumb shit. What were your thoughts on this whole thing? I know you didn't have as many notes.
My main thought while going through the retcon stuff was like, I know we've read through these things, but I don't remember what was going on at each specific point. Like, I don't remember the context for these, except like when Gamzee killed a bunch of people.
Yeah.
But a lot of the other ones was like, I don't remember what we were doing before or after this, and I don't want to scroll too far in one direction or the other and get lost. Yeah,
that is fair. And I think you'd be along with like most people by the time this came out who were live reading, that, you know, it had been a lot longer for them since those came out, unless they were like back reading or like really discussing some of the old stuff. But yeah, I think it's like it helps emulate John's confusion about what's going on, since John had no idea about any of this shit. Yeah. And it's one of those that if you are more aware of what happened, you can see like, oh, by him doing this is how it's going to change the timeline, for this to change the timeline, and for this to change it. Or I guess the possibility, because we're about to see what is going to happen. So here's the thing about the next page we're going to do. It is called My Masterpiece, and I don't fucking understand a goddamn thing about it. I have understood it more in time, but when I first was reading this, actually probably the first 2 times I read this, I just want you to know ahead of time, if you're confused by this, that's intended.
Okay.
You have to be a real Homestuck sicko to figure out what this is before you have the full context, and even after that. So if all goes according to plan, we are going to have Dami on next time to explain Caliborn's masterpiece to us.
Okay.
That is a thing.
My notes will just be question marks.
Like, probably. I'm going to see how much I actually understand it, like, this time watching it and reading through it and everything, compared to how much I understood before. But, like, genuinely, this is not the podcast of a Homestuck scholar. Like, there are people who have their niches. There are people who have been, like, far more entrenched in the actual, like, academic lore, academic discourse about Homestuck. I hate, like, discourse just means, like, oh yeah, they were shitty discourse of stuff versus discourse as, like, an academic discourse of, like, actually discussing things. And I was not deep into the discourse of especially anything to do with Caliborn. And so I'm really hoping that we'll be able to get Dami on for that, and I'll figure out exactly how much we're gonna need. But yes, soon after that, we will get a flash that will have a summary of all the retcon stuff, catching us up on the new history of the 3 years that happened. So this might be hard to answer before we actually. You might not actually be able to answer this until we finish the comic, or until, at the very least, until we watch the next video, or I don't know. But starting now, what do you think about the concept of retconning? Like, an actual, like, we are changing things. Vriska is alive now, so obviously a lot of things are going to be different because she's going to be on the meteor with everyone else for those 3 years, and has obviously, like, really affected things that are going to happen. Like, Roxy is dead now. Well, Roxy is kind of dead because in the same way that John had to die. Anyway, I'll let you talk.
I mean, the retcon is in the story text, so I don't think it's that bad. I'm usually more bothered by retcons when it's like, oh, here's a sequel to a game, and we can kind of just rewrote this piece of history. Just ignore that part. We weren't really thinking ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. People just kind of, like, especially since this happened so soon after the Gigapause, where a lot of people were like, it feels like Hussey wrote themselves into a corner and spent a year trying to figure out how to write themselves out of it, which is, like, not accurate. There's a lot of other stuff going on in that year, because, like,
I figured it would have taken a long time just to go through all the old pages and, like, rewire certain things and figure out where to do that. I feel like that would have been the big laborious task.
Well, because, like, then the Kickstarter had also ended, so there's, like, also managing, like, a game studio at the same time by this point, right? So there's, like, a lot of reasons for Hussey to take a year off. Like, yes, some of it was probably planning more of this shit, of the actual story, but then also the web pages, and, like I said, an entire game studio. So yeah, it's just, like, the fact that there is a retcon did make a lot of people upset, where it's just, like, they wrote, like, Hussey wrote themselves into a corner, and then are now, like, having to actively change the story to get them back out of it. And a lot of people, Vriska is involved, which has a lot of people have Vriska opinions, because she was made for a lot of people to have very strong and opposing opinions. So, but yeah, we'll see what you think as it goes. But, like, again, it is, like, written into the story as a retcon. It's all being acknowledged that, like, this is the retcon. John is retconning things. And, like, the thing is, like, John's retcon power had been introduced before the Gigapause, just not to, like, this extent. I don't know. It's interesting. I kind of uncritically enjoyed 90% of Homestuck, so I don't have like I didn't have any real issues, and I'm kind of feeling out. I do have opinions about it by this point, but I'll probably have to wait till the end as we see some things happen. But I'm excited where it's going.
Then surprise, there's actually another 9,000 pages of Homestuck, and it's just rehashing the story, but with the retcons intact for every page-to-page thing.
That would be so funny. I mean, to be fair, like, they did skip the majority of the 3 years as we were going through. Like, there was because that's when we were doing the getting introduced to the alpha kids, and then we'd go back and it would just be like a couple months or a year or something, and checking in to see how the Meteor kids and John and Jade were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. I just keep getting more excited for stuff.
It will be interesting to see how this plays out.
Yes.
Homestuck certainly is unique.
It is unique. And I'll see where we end it if we're gonna do the whole of Act 6, Act 6, Act 5.
Mm-hmm.
Because what is the because after that there's just Act 6, Act 6, Act 6. And that is only 40 pages.
Oh,
and then Act 7 is a flash. It is not a full act. So I'll probably
just let me know how much we should read.
Yeah, I'll get to it. I'll figure that out, especially since we're gonna have Dami having to explain the masterpiece to us.
Yeah,
that is gonna take up a chunk of it. But like we're getting there, and I'm very excited. Yes,
I'm like, I guess I would say morbidly curious about the post Homestuck stuff.
Yeah. We were just having a discussion of it in the server, in the project server, that you guys can all join. Links in the description. Join our Discord server and talk about stuff. I usually don't show up in post canon because I don't really like talking about post canon stuff most of the time, which should be obvious by the things I've said. And if you listen to old episodes, like from like 2020, you'll get some of my opinions there. But I haven't, even before I started the podcast back up again, like even before I stopped it, but also just in between, I'd been thinking about doing a proper episode on the epilogues, and I hadn't really read much. I haven't read much of Homestuck 2. I kind of noped out pretty early on. So a lot of that is going to be brand new to me, besides things I've just heard from existing near Homestucks.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I know I say a whole bunch of shit about
what
post-canon.
Would be funny? What if I read through the Homestuck 2 shit and then you have to read it for the first time?
That would be so funny. But I am excited because there's a decision coming up for you whenever we get to the epilogues.
Mm.
You will have to make an extremely fundamental decision that can never be reversed and will change your perception on the epilogues.
Okay.
Because like you saw whenever you saw Justin's book of the epilogues, is there is the meat half and the candy half. And reading and choosing which one you read first is, I think, pretty fundamental to how you come away with it. Like, obviously, like by reading both, you then have more opinions. But I feel like a lot of people's opinions get pretty settled or like have some foundations in place based on which one they read first. So
are they split into like chapters?
Yes.
Each. What if I read a chapter of each at the
that would get someone. One of the chaos agents in the server did suggest you read a chapter each, and that would be confusing. Homestuck Meat takes place over the course of a few days, weeks, maybe. Homestuck Candy takes place over the course of like 20 years or something.
Oh, do most people start with Meat? Because that sounds like the more logical starting place.
I don't know if there's like statistics on who started where first. I'll explain it more whenever we actually get there. And there is a prologue section that you will read first before it splits off to Meat and Candy. So it is something to think about, but we'll wait until we read through the prologue section before you decide, because I think that will also like set up a little bit. I don't know if it'll set up a little bit more which one to. I don't know. It'll be interesting. It's coming.
Yeah.
But I do want to say, like, I know I shit talk post canon a lot. Actually, I try not to shit talk too much on this podcast, and that's actually why I stopped it, because I was just going to shit talk too much back in 2020. I do just want to say, my first impression, once I was finished reading the epilogues, before I read what anyone else had to say about them, was I enjoyed them. I had some critiques. There were issues I had, but like ultimately, I was pretty I don't want to say happy might be too strong, but like I didn't hate them. I like some things that were happening. And I had some very strong, like mostly positive opinions. And then the fandom and What Pumpkin ruined everything.
Okay. We will see.
We'll see. Yeah.
We'll burn that bridge when we get to it.
Well, absolutely. Fucking hell. But yeah, so I know I just don't want to make it seem like a huge. I know you said you're morbidly curious, but it's primarily controversial because it was 7 years of nothing about like canon Homestuck. There was just like the high swap stuff, and then suddenly it's back, and so people had 7 years to solidify their headcanons, to solidify what they thought happened next, to do all this stuff, and now they're coming in and saying, actually, here is a potential of what happens next. Again, it's not canon, it's beyond canon, but yeah.
Yeah. Or also to like consume so many other things of media and kind of mature in one's tastes, hopefully. I don't know. Not saying like your taste would be immature, but if you like read Homestuck as like a teenager, you might have just like done so completely uncritically. And then once you like 7 years pass and then you're in your 20s, you're like, well, this seemed really, I don't know.
The thing is, I think the epilogues are more aimed at those people, actually. We'll get into my opinions on that necessarily. But yeah, I think the biggest issue was like the people who, you know, maybe had just finished reading Homestuck and didn't have anything to go off of, and instead absorbed, you know, that 7 years worth of you know, fanon, of theories, of fanfic, because like I saw someone talk about this like in the gap between like TV shows. This was about Good Omens and how people had decided what happened, and then the next season came out and people were upset about it, not because of any like actual difference between season 1 and season 2, but the things they decided while they were waiting in between. And I really think that is one of the things with Homestuck, because they had 7 years in between to get settled into how things ended and the things they decided. And the epilogues in part was a response to that. And again, we'll get into it when we get there.
I still think Katara and Zuko should have been a couple.
Oh my God, you have no idea. You have no idea how much that is relevant to me personally. Zutara should have been canon. That's...
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
The end.
the end. Thank you all for listening. Go check out Moosie's stuff. Rachel
.likespizza.com.
Yeah. It's in the links. I don't have to badly try to say it and talk over Moosie whenever they're saying it. It's in the description. You can always find it there. And come join the Discord server and come watch How I Met Your Mother with me, which actually by the time this comes out, we would have already watched the pilot episode and maybe episode 2, but you know, there's a lot more where that came from. So yes, thank you, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you to Dami for composing the theme song and editing the episode. You can find more of her work at soundcloud.com/dominothief. Shout out to our fakest fan tier supporters, Danny the Spoonlord and Tezrak. You can become a supporter and receive early episodes and bonus content for as little as $1 a month over at ko-fi.com/jaxyax, or simply give a one-time tip. For information on and links to my other projects, head over to jaxyax.com. Thanks again for listening.